What up, what up, what up, what up, what up? What's going on, family and friends, everyone out there in podcast land? My name is Day Smith. Yes, that's D-A-Y-S-M-I to the double N Smith. And this is Tough Conversations Podcast, the podcast where me and my guests discuss tough topics from different points of view to understand the issues at large. This podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Instagram at ToughTalk_PDT. That again is ToughTalk_PDT. And also, just as a quick reminder, if you don't look at the Instagram on ToughTalk_PDT, I have my own personal page that I post my hobbies, interests, and things about this podcast onto as well. So you can check me out too on Instagram at Day Smith. Day_Smith. DAY_SMIFF. And you can tune into both of those pages to interact with us in our weekly polls and to get more information about the guests and topics that I'll be talking about throughout the season. Yo, we is back for another episode of season 2, episode 2, the Deuce. I'm a little, I won't say unprepared today, but I'll say I'll be doing things out of order today. You know, usually I follow a list of things that I have going on in terms of, but I'm really excited about this episode. So y'all gotta forgive me. I'm a little bit all over the place, but usually I'm following the script to a T. But today it's not gonna be any of that, because what I wanted to talk about today is not actually what I'm going to talk about today. So everything is just kind of out of place a little bit. So y'all bear with me. Let me pay these bills real quick, and then we're going to get into it, man. We're going to get right into it. What's going on, family, man? So glad y'all came back to join me for season 2, episode 2 of Tough Conversations Podcast. Want to send a quick shout out to a list of people that I have here. First and foremost, I want to send a shout out to my brother over at Prokingdom Apparel, brother Tim B. Brother, shout out to you. Much love to you if you're listening to this. Check out Prokingdom Apparel on Instagram as they revamp and start a new wave of Christian clothing that we all can wear. So check it out, Prokingdom Apparel on Instagram. If you follow the Tough Talk_PDT page on Instagram, you will see Prokingdom Apparel on there and where you can find out where you can order Prokingdom Apparel. Want to send a shout out to CamTheStally Collection. Check that out, coming real soon. Go check out that page on Instagram at CamTheStally. Check that out on Instagram, CamTheStally Collection, coming at you real soon. Want to send a big shout out to Jada Edwards over at Roots Food and Catering. If you're in the Detroit area and you're looking for some good quality food, listen, Jada over at Roots Food and Catering has exactly what you mean, what you need, and what you mean. So what you mean? No, I'm just playing. But listen, go check them out. Go check her out over there at Roots Food and Catering. You can find that on Instagram and also on Facebook. Want to send a big shout out to HyperX for the microphone, as I always do. Shout out to Anker by Soundcore and Soundcore by Anker and just Anker for the headset, and Zencastr, who I always tend to forget. Zencastr is the software that I use in order to do the video podcast episodes where I have guests on and things of that nature. So shout out to Zencastr. As a little short note, I wanted to do a video podcast today, but time kind of got away from me, and Saturdays, I need to stop trying to record on Saturdays, because during football season, college football season, it's just really hard because, man, so many good games was on today. I had to take a break from watching the Colorado game to do this, because I was in my emotions, man. I took a break at halftime, and it was 21-14. So by the time this drop, of course, the game will be over, and we'll either be happy because Colorado won, or angry because Colorado State unfortunately won, which they shouldn't win. But anywho, as you already know, thank y'all for joining. Appreciate all of the love and support of those who listen to the podcast every week. I know last week I was not in. Season 2, episode 2 got postponed a little bit because I had things I had to tend to. I wasn't in town to be able to give you guys this episode. And I guess it was a good thing, because if I had to drop that episode, I would have ended up just having to redo episode 3, because episode 2 was actually initially supposed to be a topic concerning managing expectations and dating. But that totally got swapped this week, and I had to go back to the drawing board actually 2 days ago and really rethink over the topic that I wanted to share. So the topic that I'll be sharing today is concerning let's be real, and being real with yourself and others in dating. That long title really just boils down to let's be real. Usually I have a post of the week, but the reason I'm switching things up is because the post of the week actually made me step into a different realm of things in terms of how I want to attack this episode and why I ended up switching the topic for this episode, which kind of pertains to managing expectations, but you can't manage expectations in dating unless you really know and you're really being real with yourself and the person that you're dating. So with that being said, I'm going to play this video. And actually, before I play this video, right, I'm going to give a shout out to one more person, NK4. If y'all don't know who that is, he's a Christian rapper. And I'm going to play this song, a little bit of piece of this song, before we get into the topic, because listen, I've been vibing off this song for quite some time. He dropped this song, he dropped this album, I want to say at the end of June, beginning of July. And this album is called Authentic. Every song on it is authentic. Everything about it is authentic. And so I really been on the Christian rap vibe. I wasn't at first, and I'll get into that story maybe another time. But I'm going to play the song, a little bit of the song, and I might have to change this up because if I know sometimes when you do podcasts and stuff and post content, sometimes they don't allow you to have certain songs in there. But hopefully this sticks and they don't try to mute my stuff or whatever. But I'm going to play this song real quick. And y'all just got to check this out. Man, listen, that song, like I said, has been one of the many songs off the album, which is called Authentic. The artist name is NK4. You can find him on Instagram, on YouTube, Facebook, wherever. So that song is called Breathe, featuring one of my other favorite Christian rappers, which is Miles Minnick. Them two as a duo together are just, crazy. But good song, great message, and I encourage y'all to go check it out. Go check out the full song. It's on Apple Music, iTunes, wherever you listen to music at, it's there. So check it out. Check out the video to the song, which is on YouTube, and go show some love and support. Type in the comments, Tough Conversations Podcast sent me here, and let's show some support and love to our peoples, our family, right? So that song, once again, called Breathe, off the album Authentic by NK4. Appreciate y'all supporting that in advance. Getting into the topic, like I said, things is a little off. I kind of got struck with an interesting topic that was even more interesting, I guess, before I can even go into the topic I wanted to talk about for episode 2. I have to discuss this topic because it's of more priority than the topic I have for episode 2, which was managing expectations. Before we can manage expectations, or anybody can manage expectations, I think we have to be real. And I'm going to be a little transparent, and a lot of transparent, about being real, just because I feel like it's necessary to kind of navigate. And once I kind of lay the foundation, I'll explain more. So I wanted to play this video that I watched or seen this week on YouTube. It's from a young lady by the name of Samantha Lee. If you guys are on YouTube, scroll through TikTok and things of that nature, you've probably seen her content before. She posts a lot of like relationship advice, self-improvement advice, and things of that nature. And I think that her stuff is here's accountability on both sides. So I can appreciate how unbiased her content is, and how, she doesn't feed into that, all men this, that, all men this, that, whatever the case may be, or the reverse, which sometimes is, oh, women do this, and the third, and just kind of pandering. That's the content I don't like, is when people pander to one side over the other, as if both sides don't have issues. We all got issues, whether you want to believe it or not, or whether you want to hold yourself accountable to it or not. We all have issues that we have to work out. So I'm going to play this video. If you haven't watched her content before, go check her out on YouTube, TikTok. I know she's on Facebook and all that. Samantha Lee. So here's the video.
What I'm seeing a lot of influencers telling men and women to do is essentially put on a show in order to get the person that they desire. And then eventually you surprise them with the okie doke, of who you really are at some point. Y'all, I disagree with this methodology. I believe in informed consent. Do not present yourself to be something or someone you are not in order to get someone interested. Y'all, that is straight up manipulation. Some may even call that love bombing. But I digress. People deserve to know what they're getting into and have the right to say that it's not for them. When you don't present yourself as your authentic self, you end up breaking your own heart, playing yourself. Because someone signed up for your representative, not the real you. When they found out who you really were, they couldn't put up with it and left. Y'all, that ain't nobody's fault but your own.
So that's deep, right? That's deep, and that's a concept that when I listened to that video for the first time, I was like, yo, what's so crazy about that is that I've never even thought about that to the extent of internalizing it as things I've done or do. One of the biggest problems, I think, is that, well, let's just lay the foundation here, right? A lot of that video spoke so much into the fact that when it comes to dating or, just getting to know somebody, either you put out too much information or not enough information. And sometimes we often tailor the information that we put out to make things seem favorable on our ends. Whether it's, I'm this way because of this, and the third, or I don't do these things because of this, and the third, or I do these things, this, and the third. Because a lot of times we want to hear the image that people are looking for, and we want to tailor ourselves to that image. And a lot of people might be like, no, I don't do that. I'm just authentic, and I keep it real, and this, and the third. But let's be honest, like, that video alone, I can attest to having done that. Like, I can attest to not having been real about who I am, or things I've done, or who I was at that point, right? And so I think that leads into accountability. And I can say for myself that I struggle with accountability in relationships and in dating, because I hadn't been upfront about what part I played in the failures of said relationships, right? And I think a lot of times when we talk about failures in relationships, it's so easy to look at the other person and be like, no, this relationship failed because this person didn't do this, and this, and the third, and my needs weren't being met in this fashion, or I wasn't feeling like I was being loved in this way. But and you have to, and when somebody's dealing with you or getting ready to date you, whatever the case may be, the only side they're gonna hear is your side, especially if they don't know the last person you dated. You know what I'm saying? If they can't go back and fact check the things that you're saying, all they can do is take your word for it. But I think then comes down the line, as she spoke about, then they get to see that, okay, this person probably left some stuff out, because now I'm starting to see why their last relationship didn't work, or why they just been constantly dating around, constantly, not getting into real committed relationships or what have you, because it's some things about this person that they have left out. And then maybe months go down the line, years go down the line, and you don't recognize those things. And like she said, that's straight up manipulation. That is manipulation, because you failed to not only take accountability for your part in the relationship or failure of the dating situation that you were in, but you also failed to acknowledge the fact that you played a part into not taking the accurate accountability of saying, as much as this person was a problem, I was a problem too. And I can say that for myself. Like, it's been many relationships and dating situations that I've been in where I can say I was the problem. I don't have to get into specifics or who it was or whatever the case may be. But for sure, I can say, like, y'all gonna hear me say this on this podcast. Like I said last episode, we're gonna keep it real this season, as I try to do every season. And that's, yes, for certain, I've been that person to where I've been the broken one, and I've been the one that's done the breaking. And I know how it feels, and I know how bad the consequences are for both. Because there's consequences for both, whether you realize it or not. When you are the broken one, there's consequences that you have to face. And when you're the one doing the breaking, there's extreme consequences that you have to face. Like, it's some nights that you can't sleep. It's some nights that you feel like, man, bro, what did I do to deserve X, Y, and Z happening to me? And then you get stuck thinking about situations like, man, I remember it was this one person, this one chick, ladies, this one dude that I messed over, and, now I gotta live with it. So I think it's imperative to mention that oftentimes it's easy to want to be the victim in a situation rather than the villain. And I can say that I've had that syndrome. Like, I've had that, because why is that? Right? Because the victim always gets the most attention. Nobody looks at, and the victim gets the most attention, the most care, and it always just looks bad on the other person, right? But when you really think about it, the villain in the story, nobody wants to be that. Why? Because the villain gets the wrong attention. The villain gets, just looked at the wrong way, and nobody wants to get seen that way, because everybody wants to be this bright, shining person who just never does any wrong. And I hear people say it all the time, and though they may be joking sometimes when they say this, this whole thought process of, no, I'm perfect the way I am. I do everything perfect. Like, if you truly believe that, you are absolutely out of your mind, and I'm gonna pray for you. Like, seriously, because there's no way you make mistakes daily that you probably don't even realize. And it's best if you humble yourself and really sit back and think and take accountability for the things, even day to day, that you do that you fall short on. I say that because especially in dating, there's no perfection. Like, you're gonna make mistakes. Sometimes I wonder how people hold on to, like, this facade for so long. And that's why you have to sit in the dating phase, I feel like, for so long, because you have to give people a chance to show you who they really are. If they put on this facade, shout out to the people who put on the facade for a long time, because, hey, you need to be an actor. Hollywood is calling you. They on strike right now, and they need you. They need you, because really, putting on a facade that long doesn't do anything but prolong what somebody is going to see, and probably end up leaving quickly. And if they don't leave quickly, it's just going to roll into a consistent ball of just anger and aggression until everything blows up, and then now you got this bad toxic issue going on. And speaking of the word toxic, especially when it comes to this, like, this is one of those things where I tend to not like lean on to social media for commentary on certain stuff, because a lot of people utilize like the wrong words when it comes to like dating. And we like, I call them social media words because I feel like once a word becomes popular to say, people see it on social media and post it 20 times a day. Oh, this is toxic. You know, a couple years ago it was toxic. Then last year, what was it? What was it last year? I just had it in my head too. Last year it was gaslighting. And then now this year it's narcissist. And it's just like these words that I call them social media words, because they are, although they are real words, I feel like they're words that people just find and just like, okay, this is the new word I want to use to describe something or someone. And now that I have this new word to describe them, this is what I'm going to use to describe everything that kind of sort of looks like it. And I don't feel like that's an accurate or fair assessment of the situation or the person, when we really don't understand the meaning behind the word that's being used. We're just listening to social media and how social media puts this wording on to a situation or a person, and we just go with that. We don't take any time to do any research to truly understand definitions. We just wait for social media to tell us everything. And that's the problem with a lot of times relationships and dating, is that we allow social media to define what's already black and white. We want social media to put it into color when it's really already black and white into what we should know as to be truth and being real. And please understand that this is not like indictment on anybody who uses the word narcissist, but this is just me using the word narcissist because I hear it so much as an example to kind of display my point, if you will. But we have to understand the true meaning behind these words. And I know this is probably a little bit off topic, but it kind of plays into the whole being real with yourself. This past week, I had to really sit back and examine some of the relationships I've been in. Some of the relationships I kept constantly, and dating situations, I kept constantly going back and forth into and out of, because I was at one point very toxic. And I understood what being toxic meant. I didn't just lean on social media to tell me what toxic meant. I understood what being toxic meant for my own self. I was at one point, not living it in my real reality, and not taking accountability for the fact that I played a part into why some of these issues arise in the dating phase. And also, I just sometimes stay too long. Like, I can accept now the fact of me being the villain in some of these situations and me being the victim in some of these situations. But I'll be 100% honest that I've been the villain, like, for sure. And it's not easy taking that in and saying like, because like I said, we all want to look like we just so perfect and we just do everything right. But I really had to sit back this week and like take a deep breath and be like, yo, there's some situations that I've been in where like I've been the villain. Even if I thought at one point in time, like, I'm doing the right thing because I'm doing this, and the third. Sometimes being the villain in the story is doing what you think is right, but really is wrong. And that goes along with accountability. Like, if it's making you feel uneasy, it's wrong at the end of the day. We have so much work to do in this life, and when we're not real with ourselves, how else can we be real with others? Like, really think about that. If you can't be real with yourself about what you've done, who you've done it to, and now you about to go into another situation with that same mentality of I'm perfect, I don't do anything wrong, and the failures of this last relationship or dating situation aren't my fault. I didn't cause those things to happen. This other person just didn't meet my need in this way, or this other person didn't do X, Y, and Z. Now, are there those one-off situations where a person like is just not up to where you want them to be? Yes, 100%. Sometimes there is situations where you and another person just aren't on the same playing field. And those situations I understand. But when you have situations where you can, and I challenge everybody this week, under the sound of my voice, everybody who's listening to this right now, really sit back, and if you're dating, or maybe you're not dating, or whatever the case may be, just sit back and think about situations where you were the antagonist. Think about a situation where you were dating somebody and you were the antagonist. You were the person who, like, was the villain in the story. And you'll sit back and realize and be like, man, yeah, I could have went about that situation a different way. Man, I could have, went about talking to this young lady, this guy, a different way. Maybe I didn't set boundaries. Maybe, and that's been me, not setting boundaries. That's been also me pushing boundaries. Like, pushing boundaries as in trying to, though boundaries are established, I'm trying to push them boundaries off and get what I want out of the situation. I've done that. And that's real. Like, I'm keeping it 100% real. That's been me. That's been me. That's been me. That's been me. Any woman who I've dated in the past who's listening to this podcast and hearing me say this can attest to this very fact. And so that's just me being real. And that's why we have to look at our situations and think about that. It's a tough situation to think about, because you really have to look in the mirror and be like, man, this man ain't perfect. Who I'm looking at ain't perfect. I done some stuff. And it hasn't always been so-and-so's fault. It was my fault. I'm the reason why this relationship failed. I'm the reason why we didn't go on that next date, or we didn't, grow further than the ceiling, because I had these tendencies. And, once again, like I said, I struggled for a long time with accountability, because accountability makes you look and assess situations differently. It makes you apologetic about situations. It makes you have to change how you are, because accountability is nothing if it's not internal and external. Accountability first is internal, and then it has to be shown externally by how you act, how you think, how you do not. You know what I'm saying? So I challenge everybody to think about situations this week. And this is like, while it does pertain to dating, think about it outside of dating too. Be real with yourself so that you can be real with others. I know this kind of seems repetitive, because I feel like I talked about this. I was really compelled to bring this topic out because, and I don't think this is going to be a long podcast, because I just really wanted to get this out, because this is definitely somewhere in between. And before you can truly date, you're going to get those questions of, how was it in your last relationship? What happened in your last relationship? And it should be a red flag to anybody who asks that question and the person quickly shifts the blame to the other person. Oh, well, they just weren't this, and the third, and, this, and in the dating phase, you should be asking questions. And the questions, so what did you do? What was your place in that? And if they never shift the blame to them, or take some of the blame, say, I could have did this better, I could have assessed this differently, I could have been less of this, I could have been more of this, it's just the whole other person. What Kendrick Lamar say? Run. For real, run. Because that's a flag. That's a flag. And once again, nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. We all have things that we need to work on. And if you're not being real about how you were in your last situation, what your last situation was, then how can you be real with somebody else? And then how is somebody else supposed to manage their expectations for you, for y'all going forward, for y'all future relationship, for y'all future? How are they supposed to manage their expectations if they don't have the real you, if they don't know the real you. Some stuff just can't be left up to the imagination. You gotta be real. And if you're not being real, you holding somebody else back and yourself back. So I really just wanted to come on here and talk about be real with yourself and be real with others. If you're not real with yourself, you cannot be real with others. When it comes to the dating phase, life is too short, and you don't want to waste nobody's time or your own time playing these games, telling these lies, and putting out this false information and this false narrative about yourself that is just going to lead to disappointment and hurt for somebody else. And you hurting yourself in the process, because at everything we're supposed to be learning. And when we're not learning to hold ourselves accountable, we fail tremendously. And I know for a lot of people, you might hear this and be like, oh man, this is da 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 da. Man, take it how you want it. Take it how you want it. But it's here for you. So I encourage you, be real and keep it real. A lot of people ask me, how do you feel like you're the one to give out this information? If you made these mistakes before, how do you feel like you're the one to be able to tell other people about their shortfalls that come in? One thing I can say is that sometimes you become an expert in things by how well you fail in them. And a lot of times the information and advice that I'm giving is not given because I've succeeded in doing so great in these things, like for dating and relationships. I'm not saying this because I've succeeded and constantly been successful in relationships and dating. I'm speaking to you from points of failure. And so I'm not saying this because I feel like I am just the author of the perfectionist status when it comes to dating and relationships. I'm speaking this from multiple and many points of failures and dating from my own perspective. Last thing I want to say before I get on up out of here is that looking back on your story and looking at the hurt that you left behind, it's really hard to look and see that you've been the villain in your story while thinking that you were the victim. But no matter what, you still got to look back at it, and hopefully you look back at it and learn from it. Don't continue to be the victim, and don't continue to be the villain. Be smart, play your cards right, and take accountability. I really appreciate y'all joining me for this second episode of Tough Conversations Podcast. Once again, replay the beginning of this so that you hear all the shout outs that I made, and go check those people out. And I want to take the time to give a shout out to somebody who you cannot miss when you shout out, and that's Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. To all those who are listening, hope that this topic encouraged you in your week and hopefully made you take some steps in your life, so that way not only is your life better, but your dating life is better, and you are able to be real. Not just with everybody else, but with yourself. Thank y'all again. Please join me next week for episode 3 of Tough Conversations Podcast. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all. Follow me on Instagram at day_Smith and at toughtalk_PDT. Thank y'all so much for listening. I greatly appreciate y'all's support. Tell a friend to check me out. And as I always say, we is out of here. Peace.